Crystal Allen Dallas, welcome to Leading in the Dark. Nice to see you.
Thank you so much for having me, Nick.
So, you're the founder and chief engagement officer of Excel Business Concepts. So, what is Excel Business Concepts and what was your path that led you to founding it?
Yes, so Excel Business Concepts is a full service public relations and marketing firm. We're based here in the St. Louis region. And really, our goal is to help our clients solve for solutions. Our primary work has been in infrastructure. So you think about heavy highway, sewer, things of that nature, things that people don't think about until there's a problem or an issue. We help our clients really communicate upcoming projects, ongoing projects, and just serve as a link to community and to public around those things that are important and that matter on these projects for both our clients and the public in general.
So, you're the founder of this. What were you doing before that led you to go out on your own?
I always like to say that I founded Excel for an opportunity of three freedoms: freedom of choice of project, freedom, flexibility. I had a growing family at the time, and I knew I wanted to kind of take more control of my schedule and freedom to make an impact in this world on my own terms. And so 11 years ago, I stepped out there literally on faith, and Excel has been one of the greatest gifts that I've been given to not only utilize my academic background, which is in regional planning, but also in communication, but also fuel my passion for community and being a change agent. And so Excel allows me to do that each and every day. I pinch myself often about the opportunities that I've been afforded, and I just feel really fortunate to have been given this vision and this dream and now living it out each and every day.
Yeah, well, you should feel fortunate. That's amazing. 11-year history from anybody going from zero to one. You broke through, you made it a success.
Yeah, but you know what? In my mind, it's never not going to be. And I know some people may hear that and say, oh, that's a bold statement. But I believe we live boldly each and every day. And I believe if I had the vision to start this firm, that I would have the fortitude and the ability to see it through. And so, again, over a decade in, we're just getting started, is what I like to say.
What were the early days and years like? Did you have an anchor customer that let you take the leap, or did you were starting straight from scratch and
Oh, so, okay. People would always say, so in my former life, I worked as an executive for a regional chamber. And as you know, chambers of commerce are cornerstones for business and advocacy and really creating economic opportunity for communities. And in that role, I often would have people who'd say, if you ever started your own company, I'd work with you. And people tell you that, Nick, but you don't really think, or I didn't think people would take me up on it, actually. And I had an opportunity where my husband's job was relocating us. And I had kind of, you have this list of things of I want to be at this level, doing this type of work. And I had checked all that off. So the next likely path for me was to do my own thing. I have to say, I do come from a long line of entrepreneurs, so I was no stranger to the opportunity that it can afford, but also the challenges, right? And so I was fortunate to kind of learn firsthand from family some of the pitfalls to avoid and stepped out there and created a business plan with my girlfriend who had just gotten her MBA. And I had a list of 50 contacts, Nick. I love to share this story that I could reach out to that I knew, like, hey, I could call on these people. But literally, when individuals found out that I had started Excel, they called me. And so a decade later, I had yet to send that initial email of, we've gotten started. But the other really core thing to the work is relationships. Relationships are so important in all that we do. And if we shepherd those relationships correctly, I believe they pay dividends for us. So we're always looking for opportunities to partner and collaborate. And through that, great things have come to me and come to the business. And so we had the initial client, I'll never forget, was a small nonprofit who stepped out and believed in us. I had served in a greater capacity as a volunteer with them, which volunteering is very core to who I am. You'll hear about that time and time again in our conversation. And that turned into my first client. And then it allowed me to then pivot once we began to scale a old relationship, a colleague here in the St. Louis region when I relocated here, just having coffee with them and talking about, "Hey, I have this business and we do this and we do that." And they were like, "Oh, let me put you in touch with some people." Based off years ago, like I hadn't seen this person in a number of years, and we happened to connect and they introduced me to a few people, and that led to some signature opportunities. And then we just really were strategic. I talked to you about I was growing my family. So really the first 5 years or so, it was slow, but not because there weren't interest, it was just that I knew what my plan was, and I really stuck to that, and I think as leaders, oftentimes we're pulled in different directions, but if we can stay the course, then we can definitely get to where we wanna be, and so those clients that I've had initially, in some capacity, we're still working with them, but we've grown our client base tremendously because of just sticking to our plan and running our race.
That's a really good point, and I think you hear it a lot from successful entrepreneurs is, you have a vision in your head, whatever that idea is, like, you've got it locked down in your mind and the path, and you always get input from external sources, suggestions, maybe they're telling you you're a little crazy, whatever it is, right? But the key is believing in yourself and just holding to the course. So, what was kind of your anchor to draw you through that for those first 5 years?
I heard all of that, Nick. I heard like, "Oh, this is a great idea, you'll be great," and I had someone, honestly, who and I still definitely respect this person, but who I thought would be really excited about me starting my business, who was not. They were terrified for me. I have to add context to that this was a older woman who had retired from AT&T and stability and all of those things, and so what she saw as potential, challenges, I welcomed, right? But I have to say, definitely my foundation, my faith is core to who I am. I'm a church girl. I can't get around that. I grew up in the South and I had so many great images and representation around if you have a vision and you create the plan and you work the plan, what is possible. And my village really supported me. And I've always been told, like, reach for the stars, and at the minimum, you'll touch the moon. Like, there was never any boundaries put on what was possible for me in my life. And so that foundation has kind of carried through every phase of my life. And I'm thankful for it. I know this work, being an entrepreneur, is not for everyone, right? It can be challenging at times, but when I have those challenging moments, I always go back to my foundation. I go back to the things that I know that are core, that if it was put into me, there is a way to do it. I talk to my team a lot about solving for solutions because it's easy for us to complain or identify a problem, but really our success is in, hey, what is the road forward? Because problems are going to come, challenges exist, but they can be overcome.
That encouragement that you mentioned to reach for the stars, did that come from your parents at an early age?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. My parents, my extended family, my godparents were very instrumental in my upbringing and my community. And again, my church community was always there cheering me on, even to this day. And I am because of them and because of what they put in me, my uncles, my aunts, everyone. It's interesting. I was talking to my godmother recently, and she was like, "We always knew you were gonna go and do great things." And I'm like, "Well, how did you know that?" Like, I had an inkling in myself that, hey, my purpose is to affect positive change in the world, but how do you really know that? And so at this point in my life, I'm starting to really understand that more. And I have kiddos and I see their potential and what I know is capable and possible for them. So just having people who believed in me early on and created those opportunities for me, even if it wasn't something they understood. My mom likes to talk about that often of like, you just overshot everything, whatever it was, it's okay, let's see how we can make it happen, and she, now talks about, I had no idea about X, Y, or Z, but as a child, you think your parents know it all and they, have everything, but one thing she was very adamant about for us is, like, there are resources, so whether I have it or I know it, there is someone who does, and I'm gonna be that pathway and that bridge to connect you to it, and so that's something I try to do in my life now. If there's a resource or something I know about, I love to share it with individuals because I love learning and I love exposing people to the things that I know and learning new things. And then I think that's the best way we build community by being open for opportunities and sharing. Is I always say there's more than enough opportunity for everyone. We all can eat. And so I think that approach has served me well. And it's been really, I've been the recipient of some really phenomenal opportunities by just being open.
No, I think that's really great insight and advice. You mentioned earlier in the conversation having been exposed to entrepreneurial activities, perhaps from other family members. Is there some stories there you could share what they were up to?
Sure, absolutely. And I'll try not to get emotional, but my dear father, he has transitioned. He's no longer with us here, but he was a man of many talents. He, I think had he grown up in a different day and age, there's nothing he couldn't have done. But being a black man from the South, there were just some limitations academically and things that he was able to do in his formative years, but he didn't let that stop him. My dad, I think is probably the one of the smartest people I've ever met. And I know I'm biased, but I mean, you're talking about somebody who could have been an engineer, right? But he owned a heat and air company, so air conditioned by trade. He did plumbing work, all you name it, anything in the maintenance area, he could do it. There wasn't anything he couldn't fix, literally. And so we had a family business, and I would do some bookkeeping for them when I was in high school. He was really a good example of like, hey, here's the vision, here's the pathway. He was somebody people looked up to in our community. He was also an elder, so he was a member of the clergy. And people often saw him as a person, as a resource for whatever it is they needed. And that business he had thrived. My one of my brothers is now working in it. And so it's kind of second generation. But then also I talked about my godparents. My godfather was in the dental business, and I would spend days on end up at his office, checking people in and just being there and seeing that, and also to community. He was someone that was well regarded and highly, respected in our community, so much so that he was a part originally, I'm from Birmingham, Alabama, and so he lived during the time of Martin Luther King, and he walked and did those things with civil rights movement. So he was very instrumental and really played a role in that business leadership to help support some of those things and always shared with us about our commitment. And so having these people have definitely my godfather, this really successful business that not only provided for his family, but really he was an anchor and a pillar in community was something that has always stuck with me. And I felt like at some point in my life, I want to be a part of that legacy. So I knew it could be possible for me.
Well, what great role models to be surrounded by.
Absolutely.
Tell me more about this volunteering that you mentioned is very important and kind of core to what you do.
Yes. So I am currently wrapping up a 3-year leadership role with a local nonprofit. It's the Junior League of St. Louis. It's a 110-year-old organization. And I fell in love with the organization because it's all about empowering women leaders, right? And we know that there are just so many opportunities when leaders connect and when they're trained and when they have a singular purpose that they're working on. And I have gotten so much, Nick, from my involvement with that organization that has cascaded to other organizations that I work with. I work with a number of arts and health organizations in the region, and it is so fulfilling. My friends are like, "How do you have time to do anything else?" But when I tell you the joy of volunteering is that you get so much more than you give. And the impact of what we've been able to do through that organization specifically has just really this blown me away. I can't really articulate it, the feeling that I get being a part of something that's bigger and greater than I am and having a very small part. We have phenomenal members who are doing great work in our organization and in the community. And so to say that I'm a small part of that is just an honor, it's a privilege. And I do know that to whom much is given, much is required. So that's my small way of being a part of community each and every day, working alongside our community partners like Girls Inc. and Operation Food Search. They're out here doing the work, and the support that we can provide them through trained volunteers goes a long way and ultimately to my core purpose around affecting positive change in community.
I'm picking up on some very obvious themes from everything that you're sharing, but I'd just be curious for you to articulate a little bit more about, the culture of your company and the things that you really do as the leader to reinforce that culture.
Absolutely. Our team here at Excel is really purpose focused. We like to say we're a client focused company, but really helping them to unlock the potential of community. And so our community is strong within it in Excel. We really believe in creating opportunities for our team, whether that be taking on new projects that they're leading. We have a wide range of team members. So we have different, generations that are represented. And I love it because there's different perspectives, right? So I have some people on my team who are like AI down and all about TikTok and I have other people like, what is that? I'm not interested in being a part of that particular software, but what are the things that we can do together is that we all have a love for community and we are community. And so we believe in empowering each other, supporting one another. I have a team member who is really big into creativity and fashion. And so when we're on job sites, there's often comments around the outfits and she's giving tips to some of our clients who want to be more creative in their attire, and so really just celebrating the different skill sets that everyone brings. It's a fun atmosphere. I believe, like, if we're not having fun, then what are we doing? I've always been fortunate mostly to have jobs that I really enjoyed, right? And so that's what I've tried to build here at Excel is a place where we can leverage people's skill sets, help them grow, provide resources, we do a lot around training and development because, again, learning is essential and communication skills and things are changing so rapidly that we do a lot around just keeping up and staying ahead of what's coming so that we can be best prepared to support our client.
So the training part, is that something you do internally, or do you leverage external resources to come in and execute on the training?
So I would say it's twofold. We do some internal trainings, but we also leverage like different agencies or associations, I should say, that I'm a part of. When they have training opportunities, we make sure that we make those available to our team as well. Additionally, through some of the organizations that we are a part of and some of our clients have opportunities that they will allow us to participate in. So we are an equal opportunity trainer or development companies. So wherever the opportunities are that are aligned with who we are and where we're trying to go, we make those available.
And on the fun piece, are there some specific things that you could share that you do to make sure work is fun for your teammates?
Yeah, so when people join our team, not give too much of the secret sauce, we have a great HR professional that works with us. He does a great job of kind of building a profile of each team member and understanding what is it that you're seeking to gain from this opportunity because we really see it as a partnership. Yeah, you work here, but we work together. We work in collaboration. And so we use that to kind of create retreats throughout the year. If there are fun things that are happening in the community that make sense, maybe opera theaters having something, shameless plug for them, I'm on their board. Or maybe there's something happening, a festival. We try to create opportunities like that for the team too. So getting together, it's difficult because a lot of our people sometimes are remote just due
Mm.
to whatever they have going on, but we always start our team meetings with a kind of just moment of reflection and just kind of catching up. Because I feel like if we understand what's happening on a human level, that often impacts the work product, right? And if you're not right, then we wanna give you that space to be right. I'm more concerned about the person than the work, and I guess my business hat on, you're like, "Huh?" But really it all works together because if the person is good, if they're in a good place, then we're able to then do the work that we need to do together. So I'm always person focused first.
Yeah, that resonates with me. I talk about here servant style leadership, people first leadership, so themes that you hear from like Bob Chapman and Barry Wehmiller and Simon Sinek and those philosophies. So, really, really appreciate what you have to say there. I'm interested if you're willing to share a little bit more on the actual business. So just because I have no experience with what you do, I'm curious, is it more like a very creative type activity, or is it more like project management? What does the business feel like?
So that's a great question, Nick. And it's both. It depends one on the project and the scope that we're working on. But when I created Excel, I wanted to have that freedom to either operate in that project management space because we know that's a skill set that we do well and could offer clients, but it does often skew on that creative side as well. So we can do anything that can look like us producing a website for you, just real basic tactical things, press releases, we do a lot of those, social media management. We provide training to our clients. So, media training, crisis communications, training support, all of those things are a part of services that Excel provides. I think one of the things I really enjoy about playing in that project management space and then being the creative is that I'm also able to leverage not only our team of what we will say are internal employees, but we work with a real dynamic team of subject matter experts that I like to call my Excel collaborators. And so these are individuals that may be graphic designers, or all they do are websites, or all they do is copywriting. They have a real niche skill set that they have developed, and they love doing that work, and they just want to be a small part of a bigger team. That's a big piece of the work that we do as well. So really our clients not only have our expertise, but then they're able to leverage the partnerships that we have developed and maintained over years. So that gives them not only best pricing, but really top-notch talent that they're not also managing. We're managing all that for them. We do simple things as creating brochures, things that you need to communicate and get the business out there to the public. We do a lot of advisement and support in that space for our clients as well.
Creative individuals are interesting to me, probably because I am not one. Do you find, those people on the creative team, do they need a different type of work structure or work environment to really get those creative ideas going? I'm just imagining, like, you can't put that person at their desk for 9 hours a day.
You really can't, and you said it beautifully. I often say creatives are a different breed, and the thing with me is that I have the formal, structured side of my, brain that I can, okay, these are the logistics, and we need to meet this timeline. But I'm also a creative, and so I think that's the beauty of what we do at Excel is we give our creatives that freedom, right, to just create. So you can't put them at a desk for 9 hours; they will probably not do well. But when you give them that freedom to work in their space and they have clear objectives and they know the timeline and what we're doing, we get some beautiful work. And so that's why I love playing in this space of being kind of, I see myself as a go between, both worlds. So the client has this hard deadline, but as you know, creatives need time to be creative. They need to sit in nature or silence or whatever it is that helps them get the best product.
Yeah, so I mean, I was going to ask exactly that. So what does the freedom look like? Maybe the person is creative at 9 o'clock at night, right? So maybe they're working in the evening rather than during the day, and they sleep till 9 in the morning. I mean, there could be so many variations of this.
Absolutely, and I think specifically with our contractors, we empower them to do whatever. We give them the deadline, we give them the specs of what the work is, and typically I let them go for it. A lot of the people that I work with on that side of the house, we've worked together for a number of years. So there's a process, right, of onboarding and understanding how to best communicate with each of them because no two people are the same. And so the way I communicate with, let's say, graphic designer A may be very different than how I am interacting with graphic designer B. One quick story, I had an individual who, and my husband tells me this, he's like, you always see the potential in a person. And I'm like, well, of course, what else am I supposed to see? And so far, it hasn't caused too many challenges, but the person obviously oversold, right, what they were capable of doing, right? You've never had that
It
happen, huh,
happened. Yeah,
Nick?
oh yeah, it happens. I've probably done it
And
myself.
same, right?
Right.
But the thing was, because, I talked about relationships, it's about relationships. The client was excited about this person, I was excited about this person, and they overall did good work, but they were not, and I tell my team this all the time, the devil is in the details. They were not a details person. So again, this is our first project together. Once I learned that and understood that about how they process information, I was able to pivot and to provide them information in a different way so that we both could be successful. Because at the end of the day, it's Excel, it's crystal vein that's out there, and I have to do whatever it takes in that moment to get from point A to point B. And so that was a really eye-opening experience for me, because this was some person who I knew had the technical ability, but I think they also were at a point where they were gaining confidence in that ability, right? So as leaders, we have to be not only in the moment, but we have to be forward thinking. And then how do we pull that all together? So for them, the process was, hey, we're going to meet weekly and we're going to recap what it is we both heard from the client and make sure that there's alignment. And once we have that alignment, then we're going to detail step by step what it is we need to do and we're going to execute. Now, the thing to know about me is I'm very process driven. I'm the type of person, you tell me something, I got it and I'm running with it. So this was an exercise in growth for me as well to have to say, okay, we're gonna go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you know? So it worked out. But to your point, everyone's different and what they require of you is slightly different. And when you can find that right rhythm, that's where the magic happens.
Yep. There's two really insightful things there in that story, and I want to try to get both of them. One is, at least for me, one of the biggest challenges of being in a role like this is just what you described. Like, usually folks in our position are super type A, if you want to use that. Like, if there's a task or an opportunity in front of us, like, you don't worry about it. Like, we got it. Like, you don't have to worry about it. Like, we got it. No problem. And, but having that as part of our personality makes it, at least for me again, can be very challenging when other people, and you shouldn't expect other people to have that owner mentality, right? I mean, that's not fair either, but, this kinda like dichotomy, it's a challenge, right?
Yes, it is a challenge. And that I think that we talk a lot in community about scaling and growing the business. But what I don't hear many people talking about is just that, like the owner's mentality, you the person who has the vision and the drive to start something and see it through to an end and wants to bring people along on that journey. That's probably been one of the most challenging things because I am an action-oriented person and like to check things off, right? So I think as a leader, this isn't a question you're asking me, but in sharing, I think it's a nugget hopefully for someone that's listening is that I have learned so much about myself and my capacity. And as a leader, I have had to really think through, and my husband's really great about helping me with this, of, okay, this is your capacity, but now let's bite size this down to a realistic capacity for like every 9 to 5 person that's realistic because I'm running off passion, vision. I'm just going to get it done. And that's not always the case. So finding that right rhythm. If you have the answer, Nick, I'm definitely open to hear it.
I don't have the answer, but I certainly would like to find it. The other important thing I think you said is recognizing, of course, that different people communicate different ways. They receive information differently. Do you use any specific tools to assess your team members? And there's a lot of them, like DISC, and there's a whole bunch of these types of tools out there. Do you use those?
So I would say at this point, Nick, we're still in my mind, relatively small. So we do not play in that space with like this profile and all of that. But I have used those products in other places. We typically, like I said, I really have a lot of respect and just admiration for my HR professional that I work with. They've been doing this a very, very long time. So they've been able to really help us identify the talent that we have. So I can't take any real credit for that, but they know me very well. So I think that they have their own methodology of how individuals coming into the organization would work best with me and I with them.
That's great. It sounds like being on boards is also a component of your volunteer activities?
Yes, 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 yes.
Yeah, so but share some of that.
Sure. So I have the opportunity right now. I'm in the process of finishing up my junior league experience for Junior League St. Louis. I serve as their president right now, and that's been really a game changer for me. And just the just so many lessons, so many nuggets. We could be here for hours talking about that work. But the arts are very important to me. I grew up around music and singing, and so Opera Theater St. Louis. I serve on their board. I have the opportunity to co-chair what they call the Intermezzo Society, and it's really focused around new works and bringing new audiences to opera, depending on where you're from or what your experience is. You may think opera is not for you, but it's something we believe is for everyone because it's really just stories. It's our stories put to music. So I enjoy that work so much, and there's so many phenomenal people who are not only concerned with arts but concerned with community. And I find that when you get involved with nonprofits, if you really want to build community or change communities, nonprofits is where it is, right? That's where you should be. And I recently joined the symphony board, so that's been really, really phenomenal, and looking forward to them going back into Powell Hall here in the fall, and then rolling off construction forum. Their mission is all about convening various publics to talk about the issues that are present here in our region and how can we solve again for a solution. And so that has been a phenomenal opportunity really to work with those in industry around construction and infrastructure. And they've really expanded. We had in our region a big issue where kids were not, or young people, I should say, were getting their driver's license. And oftentimes, as the research we did, it was either around just the ability to pay for it, or I'm not a native of the Midwest, as I stated, but there, I think, like a driver's ed class that you have to take and pay for. And so that was a barrier for entry. But if you get into these construction jobs and the trades, there's certain you have to have like ID and driver's license and just things that seem like every day are not always accessible to everyone. And so Construction Forum partnered with the schools and some other organizations to create a program that makes that more accessible for young people to obtain their driver's license. And that really is a big thing when you're thinking about setting people up for success, right? We have to give them the tools that they need. And that's just I enjoy that work so much. I just think I get way more out of it, Nick, really, than I think I'm giving, but they say I'm doing a good job, so, I'm just gonna keep on keeping on and giving what I can give from a community engagement standpoint, my marketing background, and just helping in any way I can because these organizations really are core and central to creating an atmosphere where everyone can thrive and be successful.
I see why your friends ask you, how do you have any time?
The energy comes from somewhere, but I'm definitely, I talked about rolling off a few organizations. And I think in this next iteration of me and my leadership journey, it is about rest and just being reflective of all that has been accomplished and taking a beat just to kind of, be the background. That's where I like to be, actually, Nick. I don't often get to be there. But I just, supporting those who I know are doing the great work, and we'll see how long that lasts.
Well, I'm curious, you have probably a fairly unique perspective from all of the volunteering work that you described, but also your business work to really be out there and know what's going on in our region. I'm curious if there are some other really exciting things you see going on in St. Louis beyond what you've already described.
Oh, great question, Nick. There are a lot of exciting things going on in the St. Louis region, whether it be the arts piece or really transportation in general. Like when I think of these things, they are drivers, right, for change. So we have a vibrant region. There's a lot of conversation from where I sit of how can we work brilliantly together. So whether that's a city county merger, who knows? There are businesses and people who are really committed to seeing St. Louis thrive, I can say, and they're doing their part behind the scenes and some publicly to make that happen. So I think that we'll definitely see in the next couple of years a real emphasis on downtown St. Louis. Because those who have a thriving downtown, it's just better for everyone. Like, I go to Chicago and I'm just like, "Oh, it's always alive. It's always, happening." You go to New York, and that's can be true here for us in St. Louis, and we have people, again, right now working behind the scenes to make that happen, so I don't wanna spill anything, but I know that the energy and that thought is there, and my focus is really on how can I be a part of that continuing change. I just think St. Louis is a wonderful region. We have so many things going for us that if we lean into those things, the I-70 corridor is coming online. That's a long overdue change that we've needed, and that allows for us to have more things come into the region. I think the work that's being done in downtown West is really important. I also think transit, like having access to get to where you need to go in a broader scale is really important, and so I know that's something that is in conversation right now, and I really hope to see that move forward because I think if we create more opportunities for everyone, then we all can win and be successful, and then individuals like you and I who have businesses, right? We need those resources too to go to that next level and to create these opportunities not only for ourselves but for the people we employ and the people that we seek to do business with.
Well, from everything you're doing, it sounds like the region is very fortunate to have you part of these discussions and activities. It sounds like you're really making an impact.
I hope so. I hope so, Nick. I thank you for those words. And, honestly, that's all I've ever set out to do is be the change. I talk to my team and my kids a lot about, we all can complain, but the thing is, what are you going to do next? What is the action you're going to take to bring correction or bring the change that you need? And, I often tell my kids too, like, no one's coming to save you. You got to save yourself. And you got to, because it puts it back on us, right? It's easy to say, oh, well, so and so did this to me. And be the victim in your own story. But as I tell clients too, like we have to control the narrative. And we do that by being proactive. We do that by being realistic, right? Because sometimes we can have these pie in the sky ideas. And it's just like, that's a great idea, but maybe not for right now. Maybe that's a long term thing. And I'll say this to you because I love this, and I don't know if I'm sure I heard it, I read it somewhere, but it was like a aha for me. There's no traffic on the extra mile.
There you go. That's a good one.
That's period, and honestly, there's not, and that's not, I know we're in a culture of like, hey, let's be balanced, work life, all of that. That's not saying you have to overdo, but just understand that, at least for me, my 75 is somebody else's 50, So understanding that, like, when you're working in alignment and purpose of what you're supposed to do, it all will work out. It all comes to be, right? When you're running your race, I'll say. And so, yeah, there is no need to do anything but what you're purposed to do, and it will work out, and no one else is you. You are the only you on the planet, and there's a value in that, there's a gift in that that I think a lot of times we don't lean into, and we should, and so that's even me, I'm a woman in the mirror, tell myself like, "Hey, you're the only you, so do you, and it'll be good."
Well, Crystal, you may have just answered what I usually ask at the conclusion of, if there's one thing you want people to take away, what would it be? But you might have just nailed it.
Yeah, I mean, there's no traffic on the extra mile, so walk in purpose. Walk in intentionality, and not to give anybody a plug, but just do it.
Crystal, I really appreciate talking with you. You probably gave me a little bit of extra energy for my day. You're so full of energy and excitement. It's contagious. So I appreciate that and sharing all your stories and congratulations on all your success and everything you're doing.
Nick, thank you. It's definitely been my pleasure and my honor to talk with you today, and, we'll just keep plugging along.
That sounds great, Crystal. Thank you so much.
Thank you.